Reverend Crystal Cox. We're reading out of the Awakener. Please consider donating to our church at PayPal, bbgoddesschurch@gmail.com. We were on page... Woo! If you go like this. I like swimming chairs. You know, chairs that you could swim in the air. Anyway, we were on page 107 about protection, and we talked about holy, holy, holy. Listen, I want to do that some more. Let's see if I can do a full circle. Swimming in the air. Okay, I'm going to cheat. In case you want to know if this is fun, it is. It's kind of like flying in a dream. Okay. These glasses are not appropriate. Heard this video over? Hell no. Okay. Flood yourself and your entire auric field with light. Intuitively gauge how far out this field extends. You can visualize gold and white light passing through you. You can request assistance from your angel guides. By divine decree, in the name of God, I hereby empower my angelic guides to bring me total protection. Repeat 3 times. Use the right to challenge, and use it in a powerful way with the authority vested in you as a master. Break any agreements you may have had or made, either recently or in the past, with the entity or situation you are encountering. Under universal law, in the name of God, and under the law of grace, I hereby break any agreements I may have made with you in any entity, any version, any dimension that is negative and detrimental to myself and my service to God. Call in the Archangel Michael of the Blue Ray, divine will of God, to use the flaming sword Excalibur to sever the connections between you and that which is disturbing your peace and hindering your service to God. Again, requiring 3 times. Yesterday, we obviously already read this, and we were just getting ready to start about the grays. So this is kind of just a recap. Even though if you're listening to these in order, they're not a recap, they're redundant. Okay, so we'll skip ahead, because you've already seen it. It's a recap for me. Okay. You may have heard of the group referred to as the Greys. Okay, right. Zeta, Z-E-T-A-R-E-T-I-C-U-L-I. Who are grayish in appearance. The abduction of humans for the purpose of medical investigation that have been carried out by this race have been extensively written about and exposed. An agreement was made between the Zeta and the past American government. Did you guys see Valiance Thor? So Google that. It's very interesting. I think it was during Eisenhower. Okay, an agreement was made between the Zeta and the past American governments permitting them to abduct a number of American people in exchange for technical information. The agreement was later broken by the Zeta, who carried out many more abductions than agreed and also extended their abductions to people of other countries. The American people were initially used because they are an amalgamation of many different nationalities, which has altered the chromosome structure, making it stronger. Some people were abducted, samples of tissues and fluids taken, and they were returned. I know many people who have been abducted. I'm sure you do as well if you're watching this. Others were taken to the Zeta's planet permanently. The reason for the abduction was that the Zeta Reptilia as a race were becoming weak and the planet was in difficulty. They needed a strong genetic boost. The combination of the human and the Zeta genes was to produce a stronger race. Looking from the future, this succeeded as a program. The outcome was an intelligence-carrying race called the Asani, which is E-S-S-A-S-A-N-I. And that is who Bashar claims to be from, the Asani. Some of the beings from the future race of the planet are currently helping Earth with her birth into full light. To understand how this is possible involves the concept of time being an illusion and the eternal now. There is a higher picture to everything. Although these abductions were very unpleasant, they were always done with the agreement of the individual concerned, not usually consciously. The abduction usually managed to release a great deal of buried fear. Often this was the reason for originally agreeing to the experience. Everything in the universe is done by agreement, often made pre-incarnation or on a higher level, and is therefore not consciously remembered. There are still some magazines creating a lot of fear and hopelessness regarding the Zeta. Actually, these abductions are finished, except in a couple of areas where this is still being created as a fear and reality by local inhabitants. Realize that some people like to feel important and create fear. Belief patterns and fear both need to be released. If anyone feels frightened that they may have made such agreements, or thinks they may experience contact with these ones, you can let the fear go. It is sufficient to simply break the agreements, as in 8 of the protection steps. Which is, let's review that, number 8. Break any agreements you have made, either recently or in the past, under universal law, in the name of God, and under the law of grace. Okay. You are far more advanced, have more abilities, more power, and are wiser than you could even begin to acknowledge. During this incarnation alone, especially over the last few years, you have achieved major cleansing of the lower subtle bodies which contain thoughts and emotions. Even if you feel you can't be doing very well because you are going through great emotional upheavals, it may well be you have reached the last and deepest areas to be released. All this clearing means that your vibrational rate is now much finer and lighter. In this more advanced state, you won't need techniques that you may have found useful years ago. It is necessary to acknowledge your new state of being. If you do not realize where you are now, there is a tendency to mistake your current higher abilities, such as detachment, for a lower problem that needs to be handled. Techniques you need will feel right to you, but may now only take a fraction of the time you once needed. Agreeing to techniques that are no longer appropriate will lower your vibration rate. Your chakras, for example, are vibrating now at a much higher rate, at higher pitch sounds. They would not then conform to the old pattern of density or tone. Every vibration has its own color and sound. You also have 5 extra higher chakras in varying stages of activation that are attuning you to the higher dimensions, and which need to be kept balanced with the lower chakras. Provided you are listening. Are you listening? Your higher self remains on a higher dimension with easy access to greater levels of truth. If you had, for example, evolved to the 5th dimension prior to coming to Earth on this mission, you could have an aspect or part of yourself in the 5th dimension, another in the 4th, and you, of course, in the 3rd. The higher the aspect, the broader the picture, and the purer the truth. And then remember, now we are in October of 2020, and we are in New Earth. We are in 4D, headed to 5D. We're coming across the Rainbow Bridge. You could be sitting right next to someone who's in 3D. Okay, we're the receiver, like the radio. If the radio's tuned into the rock channel, it can hear rock. If you're tuned into country, you can hear country. But you can't hear them both with that same receiver. So wherever you're tuned, wherever you're focused, the frequency of your energy field is what you tune into. Someone right next to you can literally see physical reality different than you, can certainly experience it differently, has different definitions for things, different filters, different perceptions. All the ascended masters, archangels, white brotherhood, etc. follow the same pattern. They may have many aspects of themselves in the 3rd dimension. Some people, believing themselves to be a particular master, could really be an aspect of that being. This would mean that at some future point, when they chose it, they could merge and rejoin the higher being of themselves. The same thing applies as people join up with their I Am presence. The best way to explain this merge in practical terms is that it still feels like you. Only now you are you your true self, not just the incarnated part of you. All of you. Woohoo! This is an absolute incredible feeling of total freedom, complete strength, and universal love for all. You will feel very big. This is certainly no need for fear concerning this process. Everything in the pure truth of God's world operates with love and is always acceptable to you. Looking at the area of aspects, it is possible to contact beings who give their name as one of the Ascended Masters, but he or she could be a 4th, 5th, or 6th dimensional level aspect. They would be quite within their right to give this name, as it is the truth. Okay, so you might be communicating with an Ascended Master that's in the 5th dimension, you're in the 3rd or the 4th. Okay, that's who you're getting information from. But you can only get information to the level of where they're at. Now that Ascended Master may be highest on high, maybe merging with Source by now. But you only have access to the 5th dimensional version of that Master because that's what you need at this point in your life. And that's all the ability you have to translate, or the frequency that you can tune into. Okay, so they are not currently known by another identity as they would be if they were incarnated. If you wish to establish what level aspect you have contacted, you would need to ask. So, what level am I communicating with you? Okay, 5th dimension. Okay, not necessarily in the purity of, say, any one of the Ascended Masters. Okay, there is a particular method to this covered shortly. Ooh, I'm so excited. There is also a false hierarchy, and each of the true Ascended Masters of Light also has an imposter using their name in the lower dimensions. Oh, those imposters. Discern, discern, discern. These ones give out disinformation, misdirect missions, and promote fear. If you ask why this is permitted, free will and choice exist for all. There would be no concern if everyone practiced discernment. Discern. It's like I know this stuff before I read it. And I don't. I've read this book, parts of it, but it's just kind of interesting. I just love it. I love the energy of it. There are some who have blindly branded the New Age as bad, though their failure to recognize this false hierarchy who uses negative energy. All answers will be found in love and tolerance and listening to the voice of God within. The right to challenge is a part of universal law. It is the right to ask of another being his or her intent, identity, etc. The question you are asking needs to be asked in the same words 3 times. To comply with universal law, it must be answered in truth somewhere in the reply. If you want to check that it is being you, if you want to check that a being you are in telepathic contact with is indeed from a high dimension, you would ask the question 3 times and expect 3 affirmative answers. I don't always trust what I get because I'm not always certain that the information that's coming back to me is from the higher realm, from another being. I always insist that communication and assistance is of a high frequency. However, I'm not always confident to know that what I get, because what you get right away is the answer. That's what they say. But then all these other voices in your head and projections and programs have their say. So just remember, what feels fearful and bad and contracted isn't for you. What feels expansive and feels good and exciting, that's for you. That's your higher self communicating with you. Okay, the question you are asking needs to be asked in the same words 3 times. To comply with universal law, it must be answered in truth somewhere in the reply. If you want to check that a being you are in telepathic contact with is indeed from a high dimension, you would ask the question 3 times and expect 3 affirmative answers, always using wording that is aligned to the power of God. An example procedure would be, are you ready? Is this thing on? Yes, I was pretending it was a microphone. In the name of God, creator of the universe, I ask you, the true master of light. Okay, so the example is Saint Germain. I ask you, the true master of light, Saint Germain. I ask, are you the true master of light, Saint Germain? Okay, yes, or yes I am, or I am Saint Germain. I guess is what you should hear back. So repeat your question exactly. Yes, or yes I am, or I am Saint Germain. Repeat your question exactly. And then it says that same thing again. Often, the clearest answer is a simple yes or no, and you can request this form of answer. If the answer is I am, make sure there is no quiet not at the end. I'm supposed to just be like, oh, well, okay, let's see. Am I communicating with the spirit of the highest light? Knock 3 times. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. You could then establish the dimensional aspect of that being by phrasing a question such as, in the name of the highest divine light, I now ask this same being, what dimension are you in, and what is your intention in communicating with me? The procedure of 3 times always applies. It is not sufficient to ask, are you of the light? Many mischievous beings in the astral plane are of the light, but will give you misleading information just to play a game. You are advised not to accept answers such as, this is a test, you should know, or I can prove I am your guide or master. I can tell you all about your life. Just about anyone can get this information by tuning into the fields around you or the universal records. You only want 3 affirmative answers. This challenge should be asked each time, even if you regularly communicate with someone, until you truly know their vibration. It may seem a bit of a nuisance, but it is well worth the trouble. It is also expected procedure, welcomed and highly desired by the hierarchy of light. This is because they have a great understanding of how the practice of discernment by the light force could produce an instant leap in the light proceeding on earth. If you haven't been using this procedure, you could challenge your own guides and any long-established connections you have made with discarnate beings. Just in case you are being led astray, more than likely the beings you are reaching are truly wonderful and are here to help. If they are truly of the light, they will appreciate you being responsible in this area. Beings of light will certainly not feel insulted or get upset about the checking procedure. Don't buy into any attempts to make you feel guilty about doing this. Universal law exists for the greater good of the universe. Every being has their own special vibration, and this is how we recognize each other on a spiritual level. There will come a time where you will feel you can recognize this being with whom you are in communication with. When you are completely satisfied with this, you could forego the challenge. Regardless of the challenge, your priority will always be your ability to perceive truth and to establish whether the information you are being presented resonates as true, and to accept only this. Accept only information that resonates as true. The main thing to remember regarding channeling and protection is that you have a great capacity for intuitively knowing whatever you wish to know. As you become more multidimensional, you will access the truth directly from the source and not through any specific being or energy. It is not essential to your awakening or your evolution to be able to channel telepathic communications. It is only necessary to be able to receive light. You can easily know anything that is necessary to your service role by simply reconnecting to the source where access to all truth is found. When you are operating as spirit, everything that you need for your highest good will be presented to you in each moment. You are a master walking in the pure light of divine service and dedication to God, with total control over every aspect of your life. You are in control of every aspect of your life. You are a master. You are God. You are divine. Your thoughts are creating your reality, your intentions, your demands. Born of unconditional love, you are inconceivable. Wrong word. Born of unconditional love, you are invincible and can deal with anything in the universe with but a gentle whisper of your power. Waha. And so it is. All right. God bless you. Have a great day. I love you.